Thank you for becoming a part of the Master of Athletic Training program at Wright State University by being a preceptor. Today, during our preceptor training, we're going to address a few objectives. We're going to go over A-Track and how it's used. We're also going to discuss some of the main policies and procedures, especially as it pertains to student learning and expectations. We're also going to review some of the main preceptor responsibilities, as well as discuss the documents that are specific to our accreditation and the forms that are specific to our program. A-Track is the main resource we utilize to collect program data. It is an online resource and there will be a login. Students and preceptors can update their profiles and we can stay up to date with that. We can also upload clinical site profiles so that we have various locations that we know where our students are getting our clinical hours. We can also keep track of student proficiency as they go through the CADE accreditation standards. We can also track, again, hours, but as well we can start to do patient encounters, which we'll get into a little bit later in this training. And then finally, we're able to upload various documents as well as have forms for preceptors to fill out on how the student is doing in their clinical education. This resource can be found at atrackonline.com. As you can see in this upper right hand corner, there is a login. You have a login that's already been created. It is tied to the email address that you gave to either the program director or the clinical education coordinator that you wanted to receive communications. If you are new, you should have received an email from A-Track with your login password. If not, you can reach out to the program director or clinical education coordinator to get that reset. If you forgot your password, as you can see on this slide, there is a box here for forget your password. You are able to reset your own again using the email address that you provided at the beginning of discussions about being a preceptor. Once you get logged in, it'll bring you to a main page or a dashboard. You can see the dashboard is off to the side. All of the components that we're going to be discussing today are going to be down the side profile here, as well as there are icons across the top. So when we get into various aspects of how to navigate A-Track, again, you can use both of these, whether it's down the side or across, as you get into maneuvering the dashboard. As mentioned, we do like to keep updated information on profiles, so please make sure you log in, and you can see here from this main page with this profile right here, you're able to update yourself. You'll have to come down. There's a button at the bottom that says update. Click that, put all the information in, and you should also see where this red box is. You should see the students that are assigned to you for this semester. If you do not, again, reach out to somebody in the program, whether it's the program director or the clinical education coordinator, to fix this and make sure that the correct students are there. Big things, you can, again, last name, first name should already be in there in the email. NATA ID as well as NPI number. You can also reset your password and then put your main address. In updating your profile, the emergency contact is optional. You do not have to put that in there. That's mostly for our students. But at the bottom of that page, you can see here that you do need to hit the update button in order to actually update your profile. One of the biggest things that we capture with A-Track is approval of hours. So students should be logging these weekly and preceptors should be approving them bi-weekly. As you can see here from the selection, you can do these different drop downs. So I've highlighted all preceptors. But right in here, should be the student's name, the date that so student name here, the date that the hour was done, and then you'll see a bunch of names. You can filter this out so you just see your name, and then you can proceed to approve the hours. These blue buttons down the side here, these blue check marks, originally are going to be blank white check boxes. So by clicking on those blank check boxes, you highlight and they become blue. But they are still not approved until you hit this green button right here. So this green button has to be selected after you've highlighted all of the selections that you want to approve. So you can do all of them at the same time under your category by filtering your name out on the preceptors. And also, again, clicking this blue button at the top will select all of the blue buttons, or you can do it individually. I will also cue you into this right here where the date is. Make sure that the dates, usually we have the default at a wide date range, but sometimes it gets reset. So if a student is saying, hey, you haven't approved my hours, it might be because the date isn't set correctly. So one last review, filter out by your name. These will be white check boxes. When you click the button at the top, it'll make all of them blue, and then you can approve them in one fell swoop by clicking on that green button. Another thing we're able to utilize is patient encounters in A-Track. So these are becoming important for us to see how our students are doing with evaluation of injuries and illnesses, as well as how do they understand treatment. So we would like for our first years to do a minimum of 2 each semester, and our second years a minimum of 4. And we would also try to have these be a mixture. Now we know that nobody has control over what walks through the athletic training room doors, and so if your clinic isn't particularly busy that semester, we understand and seek out the program director or clinical education coordinator if there needs to be some simulations created. However, we think that regardless of the clinical site, there are opportunities for students to enter these patient encounters. I'll get into the specifics of what is entered here in a minute, but as you can see from this page, it looks similar with the drop downs, etc., to approving of the hours. And you can see that you can do, again, in one fell swoop, you can do the patient encounters. However, we would like you, since we're not doing a ton of these like our hours, we would like you to go through these and approve them in a more conscientious manner than the hours. So with patient encounters, again, you can see that patient information is being collected. There's no names, and if you're doing another recording of documentation that is electronic, students can utilize and copy and paste into this patient encounter, again, without any specific identifiers. We do want to know the age, if at all possible, their socioeconomic status, again, gender, race, if applicable, just so that we see if our students are getting a diverse population that they are treating. So we also want to see, what sport or activity are they doing and at what level. So are they middle school? Are they, high intense elite athlete? Again, all of this is to help us see what our students are actually learning and how they're able to navigate different populations. With patient encounters, because we want them to be very purposeful, we want the student and preceptor to agree on the patient encounter that's going to be submitted in A-Track. Then the student will go ahead and fill out the information and then let the preceptor know when the information has been entered. At that point, they can set aside some time as a student and preceptor to review the patient encounter. This way, the student receives feedback and hopefully grows in their understanding of what they could do better on their evaluation, on their treatment, so that they're, again, getting constructive feedback instead of just a checkbox and an approval. With the patient encounters, the main things are SOAP notes. So again, our subjective, objective, assessment, and plan. So subjective, our history, what the patient tells. Objective, in here is going to be all of the students' observations. And again, this is something that they may discuss ahead of time on what they want to put in their note, or they may be transferring it from another platform that they've already discussed with you. Again, make it as easy as possible on yourself. Don't reinvent the wheel if you have another electronic system that they're helping you with documentation. So what you're seeing, as well as range of motion, special tests, palpation, all of that's going to go in objective. And then our assessment, we do want our students to, think of a primary diagnosis, which will be highlighted right below. But in our assessment, we do want them to think of a few differential diagnoses, as well as in this area, we want them to put some short-term and long-term goals. In the plan, this is what they would do or did do with you as an immediate form of treatment. And then especially if it's going to be a prolonged injury, what are they going to do? Have them fill out some things that treatment-wise, what are you looking at or staring at into the future? How many approximate weeks and what does that look like? So help them to kind of look forward, and then also participate in the rehabilitation if possible with these patient encounters. The diagnostic code and treatment codes here, have the students fill them out just so they get used to seeing different codes. However, I do not believe that ATRAC has the latest in the diagnostic and treatment codes, so you're not going to see the latest ICD-11 or whatever the next is, and then you're not going to see the CPT codes per se that you may be used to. However, again, just getting used to this process of entering in a code and understanding that we have to have a diagnosis and treatment codes in order to help with potential billing in the future. All right, and then the encounter information. This is extremely important to emphasize with your students. They have to have an hour log that is associated with this encounter. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to approve it. So when they're doing their hours, they need to just attach an hour log with you to this specific patient encounter. They also can put the time that they spent talking with you and the time that they spent with the patient. They also need to fill in kind of what the practice domains are. So the main ones are going to be, evaluation and therapeutic intervention. And then this is where you don't have to type in everything, but you're going to select basic or advanced skill. If it's a first year and they're still struggling in their understanding, then I would go with basic. Again, like look back over how they recorded their patient encounter and kind of see, do they have a fundamental understanding or is it more developed? The other thing is that our second years we're looking for more advanced. So again, kind of are they upping the ante? Are they going and doing above and beyond with their special test, with their range of motion, etc., like what they're recording? And then here is where you select the rating, and then like I mentioned before, you can type in the comments here. And this is before you submit this for approval. So there's a button down here for you to hit submit. before you hit it for approval, make sure that you've discussed with your student kind of your feedback in particular. And this doesn't have to be a novel. It could just be one or two things for them to work on, or a couple of things that they did really well, so that, again, we kind of have these touch points throughout their time in clinical education so they can see themselves getting better. So this is a crucial way in which you can help develop the students' confidence in developing their evaluation skills. We'll circle back to some other ATRAC things, but right now I also want to get into some of the policies and procedures. So you were given in the email the latest policy and procedure manual. So in that manual, you can flip through and see how we are progressing our student through learning. And so you can see right here is their first year. So as you go down through the summer, the fall, the spring, and then their second year, what are they learning? So right now, if they're a first year, you can see these 3 courses they've already taken in the summer, and then if they're jumping in the fall, then they're just starting orthopedic assessment and therapeutic intervention. So if you have a first year that has had the summer, they have anatomy, they have the essentials, so they have some taping skills, but they are just starting to learn that orthopedic assessment and intervention. So be a little bit more patient with them, again, as they learn their orthopedic assessment and their special tests and their range of motion and all of that fun stuff, and also as they're learning the modalities and exercises. But again, it's a good thing for them to start looking at with their patient encounter, start engaging with you about all of this. If they're in the spring, then again, kind of think about all the things that they've taken in the past. So these things they should be getting better at, and we're adding in gen med conditions and research methods, so they should be again, just kind of building on their knowledge. So everything is a progression. Their second year, they should be getting well-versed in evaluation by now, and so their evals should be better. Their taping should be better. Everything should be better their second year. So all of this to say, like, if you look back at the preceptor, or if you look back over the policies and procedures, you can start to see the progression, and you can reevaluate that. Additionally, when you go to, again, this dashboard or the home page of ATRAC, when you go to this box here and you have the courses and the sites, it will tell you what clinical class they are in, and then you're able to then go to the matrix down here. Okay, so this red box here, you're able to go to the matrix. You can also, it's on the dashboard, it's also here, and you can take that course. So if we go, and look at ATR 7950, it would bring up all of the competencies associated with that course, and so you can, again, kind of see what they're learning in that particular course, or they're being evaluated on. So a lot of times our clinical education is built that they learned something the previous semester, and then they're being checked off on it the next semester in their clinical work. So that's again kind of the course matrix when you're looking at what their expectations are. So as far as so that's kind of our learning aspect. As far as our expectations of them with you, there is an initial clinical meeting which they will do either just prior to or the first week of their clinicals, in which they review all of their schedule. They review that they're, you guys understand the different patient encounters, hours, etc., your EAPs, bloodborne pathogens, all of the things that need to be covered on that sheet. And it can also be found in Appendix E in our policy and procedure manual. One of the big things, and when we get to the form for you to evaluate them, one of the big things you're evaluating them on is their professionalism. So, do they show up on time? Are they respectful? Are they able to communicate with coaches and parents and the patients? So again, these are kind of the skills that we want our students to develop, and feedback for them on the clinical rotation form we're going to talk about is going to be vital for them to know whether they're meeting the standards of professionalism or not. The other thing is that as far as hours go, we have some outlines of what our expectations are. Obviously, there may be some extenuating circumstances that get in the way of achieving particular maximum and minimums of hours. However, we do want our students to gain the most from their time with you, and so we do expect regular attendance and engagement at their clinical experiences. For the first years, it's approximately 10 hours per week, up to a maximum of 25 hours, and again, those 2 patient encounters per semester. For our second years, because they know more, because they should be learning more, they need to have a minimum of 15 hours a week. And then when they get to their immersive experience, so if you have one of the students for an immersive experience, then they should be treating this like they are going to their job, and they should be doing approximately or close to that 40-hour work week. And again, a 4 patient encounter minimum. However, if they're seeing a lot of cool things, we encourage you to do more patient encounters, again, as time allows. And then our students are also expected to fill out a clinical site and preceptor evaluation. So they evaluate the site as well as their preceptor and give us feedback on how things went. We'll also talk about here in a minute kind of the clinical site visits. So that's a good time as well to discuss with either the program director or the clinical education coordinator what may or may not be going on, and how to remediate anything that might need clarification. So those are, again, good times to step out and kind of and kind of bring together goals for the next time that there's either a clinical meeting, or if there needs to be immediate remediation. For our preceptors, obviously we've discussed a lot of different things here, but our big things are with preceptor responsibilities is professionalism and using proper terminology. We know that sometimes it's easy to get out of habit and to say training room versus athletic training room, or athletic training facility and trainer versus athletic trainer. And we don't want to off-put any coaches, administrators, etc. But we do encourage our students as well as our preceptors to use proper terminology so that other people will follow suit as well. And again, professionalism, we all have either NATA code of conduct, so we expect ethically for our preceptors to follow that, and not going to get too deep in the weeds on that, but again, those are some big things that we hold in high esteem and priority. The other thing that's a huge thing for us is that the preceptor has to be physically present and able to intervene on behalf of the athletic training student and the patient. So a student should not be evaluating and doing treatments on their own. There has to be a preceptor physically present. Now, that doesn't mean that a preceptor can't step away to go talk to a parent or to go use the restroom. They don't need to be clinging to the student's side. However, it's just good, especially in the first year of clinical education, to remind the students that if you have to step away, that they are not, they are not to be doing any type of evaluation or treatment outside of your presence. So that is a big deal for us, to make sure that you're not only protecting your certification and licensure by not having a student do something that they shouldn't, but also for the patient to be protected as well as the athletic training student. The other thing, the main responsibilities that we've kind of been talking about, and one of the ways you can do this is through those patient encounters, is to facilitate kind of what they're learning in class with the skills, and and learning kind of that evidence-based approach, best practice approach to not just looking at research, but also what is working clinically, what is the patient telling me is working, and so kind of piecing all of those things together, and this can be a really profound way for you to impact these students by again just kind of throwing out questions and facilitating their learning. One of the big things I would encourage is that obviously if a student is doing something significantly wrong, that you intervene. But the other thing that you can do, if there is a situation where they may have said something or done something and there isn't anything wrong to the patient, but there may be a different manner in which the student could learn and do something, kind of take them aside and help them learn what could be better in that situation to do. And so you can build rapport with your student by doing that, and kind of just giving them the confidence. I also, depending on your personality, you may be an individual who focuses on perfectionism and getting everything correct. So if that's kind of your personality, kind of step back and think about some of good things that you could tell the students that they're doing. Even you'd be surprised, even some small little encouraging words here or there can really go a long way with a student in making them feel confident. And then obviously just being aware of how we give feedback and the tone in which we give the feedback. They're grad students, so they don't need kid gloves, but at the same time they also do need kind of compassion as they learn and grow in this profession. And then some of the other responsibilities, which we've already gone over, is the patient encounters and recording approving the hours biweekly, as well as reviewing this clinical rotation form with them. So that'll be on the dashboard, which we'll talk about here in a minute, these different forms. But review that about halfway through to see how they're doing professionally, and then at the end of the rotation, going over this clinical rotation form with them and actually hitting the submit button. So halfway through their clinical rotation, this is just a review. You're not actually submitting anything. You're just kind of touching base with them and showing maybe areas of improvement that they need. And then, again, that final submission will come at that last week of the semester. And we encourage you to actually sit down with the student and discuss with them the feedback that you write in that clinical rotation form. In our documents that we need for KD accreditation, so there's a few main things. We need an updated EAP. So EAPs, we need calibration records, the latest calibration records, and then we'll discuss this contemporary expertise table here in a minute. But when you go to your documents page here, so you'll see that these documents have been requested, and then you're just able to upload them there. We are doing it this way so that, number one, they don't get lost in a bajillion emails, and number two, so they just reside in this document library for you as a preceptor. So, if something needs to be updated, it can be quickly updated, or we can also just request a quick update each year, depending upon, again, the needs as the program and or accreditation standards may change. So these are the three main documents that we need for KD accreditation. So going to this contemporary expertise table, so again, this is kind of like putting your CV into a table form. And I would not get super in-depth into the weeds with this, so you don't have to put down every single solitary thing that you've ever learned. I would just put kind of your main areas of interest. This will also help us as a program to identify, like maybe a student, for example, has a deep love of emergency care and treatment, and maybe that's your area of expertise as well. So we can set them up with you as a preceptor. So again, just highlighting different areas and then different places that you've received educational knowledge or training or skills. So this will be helpful to us in and again, kind of matching different students with our preceptors. Forms specific to our program. So in the P&P manual in Appendix D is the preceptor agreement. So this again is just kind of saying that you will be professional with our students. Make sure you print your name here and then sign down here at the bottom, and then email that to the program director so that it can be signed and kept as proof that you have you have agreed to be ethical and professional with our students. As discussed before, we also have an initial clinical meeting. So this goes through with your students, and there's little check boxes for you to walk through. So your goals and expectations, schedules. I really, really encourage you to make sure that you've gone over schedules with students, especially when there's going to be a break. So if it's winter break or spring break, so that there are laid out expectations of when the students are going to be able to be at clinicals or not. Also, to help the students to think ahead and plan ahead. Do they have any major things coming up? Weddings, graduations, whatever it may be that they need to be mindful of, and not commit to helping at clinicals if they have those significant things happening in their lives. So again, this should be done at the start of clinicals, whether it's the week before or during that first week, but it should be done, and the student can return it to the clinical education coordinator during that first week of classes. So we do have a place, if necessary, in our P&P manual. So Appendix F has the student concern form. So if you find that the student's conduct is not professional, or there is something that demands immediate remediation, then please first contact the program director to discuss what is happening and what specific offense has happened, or if you see a pattern of behavior, please try to catch the program director early on so that things don't become more egregious. So these forms are meant to also document if we've discussed with the student some type of behavior and there has been no remediation, then it is definitely important to do a concern form to show this is, a disciplinary policy. You can look up the rest of the disciplinary policy in our P&P, so and walk through what would happen if a student continues down the the path and does not correct their behavior. All right, and then the specific program forms that are completed within A-Track we've already discussed, but I just wanted to draw your attention to the actual place that they're housed in A-Track. So you will be filling out, so when you get to that profile, again, your specific profile on dashboard, and you see the forms, you should see here the forms that are available to you to fill out, and that will be the clinical rotation, and it'll be a specific, so it'll say like fall 2024. You can also pause if you're not ready, so you want to fill it all out, and then you're not ready to go over it with the student. You can click save, and it'll be here, and then once you're ready to go over it with the student, and then you hit submit, it should show up here that you've already completed it. So this is, again, just kind of our way of collecting how did things go, how were the students' professional conduct in their rotation. And then the students themselves will be doing something similar and completing the clinical site and preceptor assessment. It is encouraged by students to fill that out with their preceptor if they have time, and to also discuss things that went well so that there is a mutual respect and understanding, so that you can also learn and have some feedback. Not all students feel comfortable doing that, but if they do, we really do encourage them to have an opportunity to sit down and say what they really liked about their clinical site and their time with you. If you need assistance on A-Track in particular, you can see this red box here. There are tutorial videos on how to approve hours, how to approve patient encounters. So all the different things, if you want to jump back and get more in depth with A-Track. However, most preceptors may or may not have time to get into all of that with the videos, so please feel free to reach out and ask any questions. Utilize the emails of the program director or the clinical education coordinator to get your questions answered, or again, most times we are available as well via cell phone to either call or text. Thank you so much for being a preceptor in Wright State's Masters of Athletic Training program. Really, the students benefit greatly from your wisdom, your expertise, and again, don't underestimate the power that you have as a preceptor to help facilitate growth and learning, because of the dynamic nature that happens in clinical education when you're able to discuss different levels of patient care and how you've developed your art and science throughout the years of learning your trade and craft. So thank you again, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out via email or text. Thanks.